Well, not everyone who gets Jobseeker is without a job. You can still be earning some money. For example, if you're a sparky or a plumber and a sole trader and you're out there working, you can still get the Jobseeker payment, depending on your individual circumstances. But what we have done is effectively doubled the safety net to help people through this difficult period. All our measures are temporary and are targeted. We don't want them going, Paul, for a day longer than they have to. But of course, we've also got the JobKeeper payment, which complements the Jobseeker program, and that's designed to keep employees in a job by supporting employers with the wage subsidy.
I've got to say, you know, I'm frustrated on your behalf sometimes when I hear people say, oh, JobKeeper should have only gone for 4 months, not 6 months. Well, who knew? You know, the health crisis was one thing, the economic crisis was another, and the economic crisis was always going to go longer than the health crisis. I also love the people who say, well, for some it's a pay rise and for some it's a pay cut. Well, the whole point is the Business Council of Australia made it clear yesterday that anyone over the age of 45 had a 50% increased chance of being retrenched and never employed again if JobKeeper wasn't put in place. I know that no system is perfect. There are lots of different variables here, but can we just get back to the fundamentals here, that JobKeeper means people don't go on the dole, because the transition from the dole back to a job is harder than from the reserves bench back out onto the main game.
Well, you're absolutely right, Paul. One of the key purposes of the JobKeeper program was to keep employees and employers formally connected. So even if a business had to close their doors and stand down their workers, they could still keep them on the books. And that was the purpose of having a flat payment, $1,500. So if you earn more, you don't necessarily get more from the taxpayer. And everyone is getting the same payment. And the whole idea is to make it easier for employers to keep their employees in a job.
Well, also, let's talk about, you know, I saw Jacquie Lambie today, and look, Jacquie Lambie has had the experience of being unemployed, of being on the dole, so she has this unique experience about how far that money goes and how more of that money obviously goes further. She's talking about how the New Start payments, sorry, the job, they get confusing for me. I'm just going to call it the dole. You're not allowed to say that, but I'll call it the dole, okay? That the dole, she wants the increase in the dole to keep going forever. I'm nervous here because for us to get an economy back firing to even where we were, let alone surging beyond it, we're going to need a Senate to repeal some legislation. You need Jacquie Lambie's vote, and if she's already saying that welfare should be doubled at a permanent level for people on the dole, I'm nervous about that Senate, mate. Have you had any conversations with Centre Alliance, Jacquie Lambie, Pauline Hanson, because you need them to get something done if Labor decides to say no?
Well, we've actually got sunset clauses on our legislation, and that has been really important. Everything that we've done, we've been working to this 6-month time frame, and we don't want these payments to be going out the door for a day longer than they have to. As you can understand, Paul, the country doesn't have a money tree. We actually have to pay back this growing debt burden as a result of spending what was necessary during the coronavirus. So we're very conscious that these programs will end when it's appropriate to do so.
Yeah, and no one's being hard-hearted. It's just saying we know what the normal was, and then we know where we are. Anyway, you can just feel the opportunists. They're itching to get back to their normal position of whacking away. But anyway, good luck to them. We'll keep our eye on the prize, which is about the normal people who are watching us and you guys are taken care of. The health curve, such an easy illustration of things get worse, then things get better, right? We need to have a graph. Yeah. We need to have a message. I don't know what it is. What's your plan for keeping the economic curve at front and centre attention, the same way that people seem to sit there every day leaning forward to see whether the health curve was changing?
Well, obviously, we've got to ease those restrictions when it's safe to do so, and we're starting to see that already, Paul, with the elective surgery restrictions being wound back. We obviously want kids to get back to school as quickly as possible. The Prime Minister has made that very clear, and today we've made some announcements about financial support for the independent and Catholic school sector to get back to school quicker than may otherwise have been the case. And I think that's really important. We don't want kids to lose this vitally important time in the classroom, which is so critical to their numeracy and literacy development, but also to their health and well-being as well. So we'll see an easing of restrictions over time. We've had great success in flattening out that curve. And once we start easing those restrictions, more people will get back to work, and obviously the economy will then rebound. Our intention is stronger than ever.
I was fascinated to see something the Commonwealth Bank put out yesterday, which was an analysis of bank deposits that basically suggested that for Commonwealth Bank customers, there has not been a huge drop in the amount of money that's going into their accounts every couple of weeks or every month. Now, I know that different people, different banks, different situations. What do you read into that? Because it seems to say that, look, I know you're supposed to call it stimulus, but it's the social safety net. And it seems that part of the financial pressure about how do I pay the bills today, at least for that analysis out of the Commonwealth Bank, seems to suggest that that hole is being filled.
Well, I'm under no illusions that many Australian families are doing it tough right now. They've either lost their job, been stood down from work, or the small business that they've run has had to close their doors because the social distancing measures have meant that customers haven't been able to come and purchase as they normally would. So people are doing it tough. The $750 payments were designed to help millions of Australians who are on income support, Paul, so the pensioners, those on carers payment, disability support pension, people who get a Commonwealth Seniors Health Card or on family tax benefits, they're all getting those $750 payments. As for the cash flow boost for small business, that's now getting out the door. That's designed to meet some of the fixed costs that they have incurred. And then the Jobkeeper payments will flow from the first week of May. But they haven't been, the Jobkeeper payment is not designed to be a replacement wage for everyone across the economy. It's around 70% of the median wage.
Look, we know that what we're marching towards, a big budget deficit's very different than where we thought we'd be 12 months ago. But because of the work that was done in the lead up to 12 months ago and the work that was done in and around that budget, that hole is not going to be as deep as it could have been. But there is an alternative. There is are there any other alternatives version, I think is what they ask you in question time, which is the alternative history, that is, if the other blokes had won, or you had done everything that the other blokes had suggested since the last election. Well, apparently you would have, owned an airline, you would have doubled certain welfare payments, you would have delivered a stimulus package. This is all before things even started to get as serious as they are. That alternative history is a lot more expensive than the one we're currently living, right?
Well, don't forget $387 billion of higher taxes, Paul. I mean, many of your viewers would have had less money in their pocket to get through this crisis because they were going to be whacked with those huge taxes that our opponents were planning to put in if they got into office. Well, thankfully, the country dodged that bullet. And as you say, the economy was strengthening as we went into this crisis. Unemployment was falling. We saw growth rising at the back end of last year, and the budget was in balance for the first time in 11 years, and we were still on track to deliver that surplus despite some of the challenges we were facing. But the surplus was never an end in itself. It was always about a country living within its means. And the fact is we have been very prudent with our spending so that when this crisis hit, we were able to respond in the way the Australian people wanted, needed and expected us to do. So with around $320 billion of support, it's been a lot greater than many other comparable nations, and it will help us build that bridge to the recovery phase, so important to Australia being a stronger economy once we get through the coronavirus crisis.